This is it. This the only one like it that we have access to. Nowhere else can we go that we can thrive as a species like we have here on planet Earth. Abundant resources coupled with the ingenuity and curiosity of mankind, we literally have instant access to the complete opposite side of the world. From the humble nomadic hunter-gatherers of our distant ancestors, who barely knew the world around them, to the modern-day 21st century of quantum physics and supercomputing, we have come so far. With all the resources and knowledge we have acquired over the ages, you would think these utopian-style civilizations are what we would have evolved into by now. Instead, people all over the world are still suffering, hungry, and fighting for basic human rights. All the while greed and power corrupt the ones in control, caring nothing for the people or the planet they coexist with. It must stop. Time has run out. Pollution, and disregard for the planet and the science warning us of impending doom, has brought us to the next mass extinction, and if we don't do something now, we too will be a part of that list. Every corner and crack on this planet has been affected by our haphazard use of the abundant resources once offered to us. And if we do not do something about it right now, we are doomed to the climatastrophe that we have created. The Earth is already fighting back. The effects of global climate change are more and more apparent every day. From increased storm intensity to wildfires and other natural disasters. The planet is becoming increasingly dangerous to life. If we don't do something now to fix this mess, it won't be too long before this mess fixes us. We need to learn to coexist with the planet instead of trying to bend the planet to our existence. And if we don't, things are just going to get much, much worse. We are the only species on this planet that's ever been able to see and prevent our extinction. Yet the majority of us refuse to do anything, or even acknowledge the horrors rapidly approaching us. We must act now. And make drastic changes, or else.
Earth's climate has changed throughout history. Just in the last 650,000 years there have been 7 cycles of glacial advance and retreat. With the abrupt end of the last ice age about 11,700 years ago, marking the beginning of the modern climate era, and of human civilization. Most of these climate changes are attributed to very small variations in Earth's orbit that change the amount of solar energy our planet receives. The current warming trend is of particular significance because most of it is extremely likely, greater than 95% probability, to be the result of human activity since the mid-20th century and proceeding at a rate that is unprecedented over decades to millennia. Earth-orbiting satellites and other technological advances have enabled scientists to see the big picture, collecting many different types of information about our planet and its climate on a global scale. This body of data, collected over many years, reveals the signals of a changing climate. The heat-trapping nature of carbon dioxide and other gases was demonstrated in the mid-19th century. Their ability to affect the transfer of infrared energy through the atmosphere is the scientific basis of many instruments flown by NASA. There is no question that increased levels of greenhouse gases must cause Earth to warm in response. Ice cores drawn from Greenland, Antarctica, and tropical mountain glaciers show that Earth's climate responds to changes in greenhouse gas levels. Ancient evidence can also be found in tree rings, ocean sediments, coral reefs, and layers of sedimentary rocks. This ancient, or paleoclimate evidence reveals that current warming is occurring roughly 10 times faster than the average rate of Ice Age recovery warming. Carbon dioxide from human activity is increasing more than 250 times faster than it did from natural sources after the last Ice Age. The planet's average surface temperature has risen about 2.12 degrees Fahrenheit, 1.18 degrees Celsius, since the late 19th century, a change driven largely by increased carbon dioxide emissions into the atmosphere and other human activities. 4 Most of the warming occurred in the past 40 years, with the 7 most recent years being the warmest. The years 2016 and 2020 are tied for the warmest year on record. The ocean has absorbed much of this increased heat, with the top 100 meters, about 328 feet of ocean showing warming of more than 0.6 degrees Fahrenheit, 0.33 degrees Celsius, since 1969. Earth stores 90% of the extra energy in the ocean. The Greenland and Antarctic ice sheets have decreased in mass. Data from NASA's Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment show Greenland lost an average of 279 billion tons of ice per year between 1993 and 2019, while Antarctica lost about 148 billion tons of ice per year. Glaciers are retreating almost everywhere around the world, including in the Alps, Himalayas, Andes, Rockies, Alaska, and Africa. Satellite observations reveal that the amount of spring snow cover in the northern hemisphere has decreased over the past 5 decades and the snow is melting earlier. Global sea level rose about 8 inches, 20 centimeters, in the last century. The rate in the last 2 decades, however, is nearly double that of the last century and accelerating slightly every year. Both the extent and thickness of Arctic sea ice has declined rapidly over the last several decades. The number of record high temperature events in the United States has been increasing, while the number of record low temperature events has been decreasing, since 1950. The U.S. has also witnessed increasing numbers of intense rainfall events. Since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, the acidity of surface ocean waters has increased by about 30%. This increase is the result of humans emitting more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and hence more being absorbed into the ocean. The ocean has absorbed between 20% and 30% of total anthropogenic carbon dioxide emissions in recent decades, 7.2 to 10.8 billion metric tons per year.
This is why fighting climate change is so urgent. The global warming that's changing our climate is already having dire consequences. In just the past few decades, rising temperatures have worsened extreme weather events. Chunks of ice in the Antarctic have broken apart. Wildfire seasons are months longer. Coral reefs have been bleached of their colors. Mosquitoes are expanding their territory, able to spread disease. What's causing these harmful changes? It's mainly us. We humans are the ones who burn fossil fuels and chop down forests, causing average temperatures to rise worldwide. That global warming trend is increasingly disrupting our climate, the average weather over many years. Earth has already warmed by about 1 degree Celsius, or 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit, since the 19th century, before industry started to boom. While we experience the effects, we're on our way toward 1.5 degrees Celsius, 2.7 F, by as early as 2030. Why a half degree more is such a big deal? A warmer world even by a half degree Celsius has more evaporation, leading to more water in the atmosphere. Such changing conditions put our agriculture, health, water supply, and more at risk. Picture a North Carolina cotton farm that's been around since 1960, with global average temperatures rising by roughly half a degree since it grew its first crop. The increased evaporation and additional moisture to the atmosphere has led to 30% more intense rain during heavy downpours in that part of the U.S. Then a hurricane like 2018's Florence, already strengthened by warmer oceans and higher seas, dumps this excess rainfall on the farm. The crops get more flooded and damaged than they did half a century ago. It's how you go from half degree of warming to economic hardship. There's still time to act. Whether it's a shift of 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees, these warming levels aren't magic thresholds. Every rise in warming is worse for the planet than the last. But they're not inevitable. It's not too late to slow the pace of climate change as long as we act today. With your help, we can attack this challenge.
Global warming figures are at a record high and we're edging dangerously close to irreversible damage to the planet. There are millions of tons of plastic in the oceans, and we're facing species extinction at an unprecedented rate. The time to act is now. If we stand any hope of curbing our carbon footprint and securing the future of the planet, we all need to start making changes. Here are the best ways for you to fight climate change. Switch to green energy. One of the leading causes of climate change is the burning of fossil fuels, so it's essential we stop relying on oil, coal, and gas to power our homes. Eat less meat and dairy. The production of meat and dairy uses up 83% of farmland and produces 60% of farming's greenhouse gas emissions, but it only provides 18% of food calories. You can make a huge difference to your carbon footprint by cutting down the amount of meat you eat, along with eggs and dairy. And you might even save a bit of money on the weekly food shop in the process. Cut out single-use plastic. Most plastic can't be recycled and ends up at landfills where it can take up to 1,000 years to decompose. It's also made using energy from non-renewable fossil fuels. Every day, around 8 million pieces of plastic pollution enter our oceans. And every year, 100,000 marine animals and turtles are killed by plastic pollution, along with 1 million seabirds. By cutting down on your single plastic usage, you can help reduce plastic waste and fight climate change. Take a backpack with bags for life with you when you go shopping. Buy loose fruit and vegetables, and look for zero-waste grocery shops. Use reusable coffee cups and water bottles. Switch to bamboo toothbrushes. Swap disposable razors for a safety razor. Change your travel. Car share. If you need to drive to work every day, talk to people who live near you about running a carpool. It means you can split the share and cost of the driving, while reducing your fuel emissions. Use public transport. Check the local bus times or head to your nearest train station. You'll drastically cut your carbon emissions, and you'll have time to read, listen to a podcast, or just watch the passing countryside. Walk or cycle to work. If you're lucky enough to live in walking or cycling distance of work, leave your car at home. It's better for the environment, and it's good for your overall health. Campaign against fracking. Drilling for fossil fuels is a major contributor to climate change and habitat displacement, but it's happening in the UK despite mass public opposition. But you can still make your voice heard. Support your local anti-fracking group. If drilling is set to go ahead in your local area, you can get involved with local groups who oppose fracking. Switch your bank account. Lots of high street banks invest in fossil fuels and fracking companies, so move to an ethical bank. We've got a small window of time to reverse the effects of climate change, and it's up to all of us to secure a greener future for the environment. If everyone took small steps to lower their carbon footprint, it could make a huge difference to the overall health of the planet.